Imagine you're exploring Yosemite National Park. You're admiring waterfalls and summer flowers, and a beautiful meadow. And in that meadow, a severed human arm. I'm Cassie, and I hope you stick around. This would happen to a family out hiking around Summit Meadow in Yosemite Park in June of 1983. A child would stumble upon a severely decomposed human arm, and the police would be called. This is the unsolved case of Patricia Hicks. When investigators arrived to check out the arm, they believed it had been frozen over the winter and possibly there since 1982 and had recently thawed. They also believed that the arm belonged to a small adult female. A search of the area came up with nothing, and there was no progress on figuring out who the arm belonged to. The person's cause of death is unknown, but was presumed, and is presumed, homicide. 5 years later, in 1988, a skull was discovered near the area the severed arm was found. It was actually across the street. The skull belonged to an adult female. It was presumed the skull and arm belonged to the same person. This was confirmed many years later through DNA in 2009. Now, back to 1988, a clay rendering would be made of what the woman possibly looked like. Her lower jaw would never be recovered, so they had to guess how she would have looked. They also believed her to be Hispanic and gave her dark hair. This would later be debunked when a genetic test showed her to be only of European descent and have blonde hair. There was an updated rendering done at the time of the genetic testing by Parabon Nanolabs. For many years, the remains were unidentified, but there were suspects early on. The genetic testing led to a confirmed match in April 2021. The woman's identity was made publicly available in 2022 on an episode of Wild Crime on Hulu. Previously, family did not want her identity public. The remains belonged to Patricia, or Patty, Marie Hicks Dahlstrom. She was a 28-year-old woman who had disappeared September of 1982. Patty had previously been involved in a religious cult run by Donald Gibson. Family and friends believed the suicide of her brother and a divorce changed her and led her to joining the cult. This also may be why Patty was never reported missing, since there had been distance between her family and herself since she joined the cult. In 1980, several cult members were arrested, including Patty. In 1981, Patty would testify in a case against her cult leader, Donald Gibson. Donald Gibson had been convicted of 4 sexual offenses. The cult had used LSD and performed sexual assaults and activities, claiming it was for religious purposes. Many cult members were afraid to speak out of fear. An example of the control he had is that Patty had shaved her head because Donald Gibson had told her that she was too vain about her hair. Donald Gibson would post bail and would never be seen again. Tips say that he possibly fled to Mexico. Patty had decided to leave the area after finding out that Donald Gibson was on the run. Patty's roommate, who hadn't discovered that she was dead until 2021, said that she was on her way to Yosemite Park. She had lived in the same house since 1983. The attorney prosecuting Gibson believed he was capable of violence against someone who would betray him. And this is probably the reason that Patty left town. Another possibility was future Yosemite Park serial killer, Cary Stayner. Cary Stayner was associated with Donald Gibson and actually was at his trial, where Patty testified against Gibson. Patty's death was before Cary's killing spree, but it is a strange coincidence. There is no other evidence connecting Cary, and he is currently on death row. Prior to IDing Patty, serial killer Henry Lee Lucas confessed to killing her, even though he couldn't recall her name, just that she had straight blonde or light brown hair and wore silver rings on both hands. Starting in 1983, Henry Lucas began confessing to hundreds of killings across the U.S. It is believed he started doing this because of all the attention it brought him, along with special treatment. Henry did often know details the killer would know, but this could possibly be explained by investigators showing him crime scene photos and asking him leading questions. In the end, only 3 of his confessed crimes could be placed on him. During his confession spree, he was interviewed by Yosemite investigators. Henry claimed he picked up a woman hitchhiking near Yosemite, even though he apparently didn't remember the park name either. He had said that they drank beers and ate fried chicken that was stored in tinfoil. They had consensual sex, and then he killed her. Patty's roommate later stated that she did not believe that Patty would drink, as it was against their religious beliefs. Investigators were able to find a possible campsite that matched Henry's description. They found chicken bones, tinfoil, and cans of his favorite beer, Budweiser. In 2020, NPS Investigative Services Branch said the evidence pointed to Lucas. Unfortunately, Henry Lee Lucas died from heart failure March 12, 2001, while in prison, taking any answers he would have with him. The information he provided isn't conclusive. It is considered circumstantial evidence that he had been camping in Yosemite during the 1980s. The beer cans found are supposedly being tested, but I have no updates at this time. Patty Hicks' case remains unsolved. Thank you for being here. I hope I see you again sometime. Bye.